The cold wind blew across the empty land. The sky was gray, and the ground was covered in white ice and broken metal. An old research station stood alone in the middle of the frozen planet. The doors were half open, swinging slightly as if inviting someone inside. But no one lived there anymore, at least that's what people believed. A small ship landed near the station. Steam hissed from its sides as the engines cooled down. A man stepped out, wearing a black coat and a helmet. His name was Elias. He looked calm, too calm for someone landing on a planet where dozens had disappeared without a trace. He didn't carry fear in his eyes. Instead, his steps were slow, steady, and careful. He walked toward the old station without saying a word. Inside, the lights flickered. The walls were scratched, and strange marks covered the floor. The air was cold and heavy. Most people would have turned back the moment they saw the place. But Elias kept walking. He moved like he had been here before, like the cold didn't bother him, and the silence didn't scare him. His radio crackled. A voice from the orbiting base said, "Elias, are you inside?" He pressed a button on his wrist and answered, "Yes." Going deeper, then he shut off the signal. He wanted silence now. As he moved through the hallway, his eyes stayed sharp. He looked at every broken screen, every door left open, every wire hanging from the ceiling. He stopped near a room labeled Command Center. The door creaked as he pushed it open. Inside, the lights were out, but something moved. A quiet sound came from the corner, like someone breathing slowly. Elias stepped forward. His hand hovered over the small energy weapon on his belt, but he didn't pull it out. He spoke in a calm voice. "I know you're here. You don't have to hide." Silence followed. Then, a soft female voice came from the shadows. "Why are you not scared?" Elias didn't move. His face stayed still, eyes steady. "Fear is a waste of time," he said quietly. The woman stepped out. She looked young, but her eyes were wide and wild. She had been on the station for weeks, hiding, surviving. She stared at him, confused. Everyone else who came here ran or died. But you're calm. Why? Elias walked past her and looked at the main screen. It showed a red warning sign flashing again and again. "I've seen worse," he replied. The woman shook her head. "This place, it messes with your mind. It shows you things. It whispers. Don't you hear it?" He turned to her, his voice low but firm. "I hear it. I just don't listen." She backed away, unsettled by his answer. "You're not normal." Elias gave a small, almost sad smile. "No, I'm not." A loud noise echoed from the hallway. Heavy footsteps. Something big was coming. The woman panicked. "It's awake. It knows you're here." But Elias didn't flinch. He simply looked toward the hallway and took a slow breath. "Let it come." The woman stared at him like he was insane, but something in his voice, in his eyes, made her stop. He wasn't bluffing. He truly didn't fear whatever was coming. The footsteps got closer. The lights flickered harder. The air grew colder. Elias stood tall, silent, waiting. The woman whispered, "You'll die like the rest." Elias didn't even look at her. Maybe, but not scared. The last light in the room went out. Darkness took over. A deep growl came from just outside the room. Elias stepped forward into the shadows. The woman held her breath, frozen in fear. And in the dark, she heard him say, "Fear is a cage. I broke out of it long ago." Then the door slammed shut behind him, and everything went quiet. But her mind didn't stay quiet. His words echoed in her head over and over. And for the first time in weeks, she wasn't just scared, she was curious. Who was this man? And what had he seen that made him so calm in the face of death? She stood alone in the dim room, trying to understand. But no answer came. Only the silence of a cold, haunted planet, and the footsteps of a man who had left fear behind. "You said." The station grew darker with every passing second. Cold air moved like fog through the hallways. The woman, still shaken by Elias's calmness, waited near the command center door, listening closely. She expected screams. She expected gunfire, but all she heard was silence. Then, footsteps, light ones, coming back. Elias walked out of the shadows, unharmed. His coat was torn, but there was no blood. His face showed no panic, no pain, not even anger, just the same calm look. She stepped back, eyes wide. How are you alive? Elias didn't answer right away. He sat down in a broken chair, wiped dust off a console, and looked at her. It tried to get in my head, he said. It showed me things, my worst memories. The woman's voice trembled. That's what it does. It feeds on fear. Elias nodded. I know. She sat down slowly, still watching him like he might break apart any moment. So, what did it show you? He looked straight ahead. My mother, the day she died. A war I couldn't stop. Friends I couldn't save. He paused. But it wasn't real. It was just a trick. The woman shook her head. It breaks everyone. You're not even shaking. Elias leaned back and said something that made her heart skip. I've already been broken. There's nothing left to fear. His words hit her like a wave. She had never met someone like him. The others who came before, they cried, they screamed, they begged for help. But Elias, he seemed like someone who had lived through hell and made peace with it. She asked his name. Elias Ward, he said. Scout. Survivor. Messenger. Messenger, she repeated, confused. From who? He looked at her, and for a moment, his calm face shifted just slightly. From the species you thought couldn't survive places like this. Then the station lights blinked, once, twice, and a low sound echoed from the lower levels, a warning signal. She jumped. It's calling more of them. You triggered something. Elias stood up. His voice was calm, but sharp. Good. Let them come. She couldn't believe him. You want them to come. He looked her in the eyes and said, I came here to be seen. And now they're watching. Suddenly, everything made less sense. And more. She stared at this strange human, more confused than ever. He wasn't just unafraid. He had a mission. And it wasn't survival. It was something else. Something bigger. Something terrifying. And it was only just beginning. The woman followed Elias through the lower levels of the station. She stayed a few steps behind, her hands shaking as she held a dim flashlight. The cold grew deeper the further they went. But Elias didn't seem to notice. His steps were calm, steady, quiet. What do you mean? They're watching, she asked. Elias didn't stop walking. They've been watching humans for years, testing us, picking us off, studying what breaks us. She frowned. And he turned slightly, just enough for his voice to reach her. They still don't understand us. The station's lights flickered again. Metal creaked above their heads. The air felt heavier now, like something was pressing down on them. They reached an old control room filled with broken screens and dusty data cores. Elias began connecting a small device to the system. What are you doing? She asked, still unsure if she should be helping or running. Downloading Earth's history, he replied. The real history. The screens lit up. Clips and files began to load. Slowly at first, then faster. She stepped closer. Her eyes scanned the images. Old wars, cities burning, people running, crying, fighting, and surviving. She saw humans in trenches, in space, underwater, on dying planets, facing monsters, machines, and each other. Again and again, the images showed pain, but never surrender. What is this? She whispered. Elias looked at her. This is who we are. This is what we come from. One clip showed a human soldier crawling through a battlefield with broken legs. Another showed a child pulling two others from a collapsed building. Another showed an old woman fighting back raiders with nothing but fire and glass. "These aren't soldiers," the woman said softly. "They're everyone." Elias nodded. "We don't win because we're stronger. We win because we don't stop." The woman took a step back, her face pale. "No species lives like this." "Exactly," Elias said. "That's why they'll never break us." Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the station. The walls shook. The lights died for 3 seconds, then came back red. "They're coming," the woman whispered. Elias didn't look worried. He pulled the device from the system and turned to her. "Let them come. Now they'll see what human fear really means." She stared at him, heart racing. "You're not here to escape, are you?" Elias gave her a cold smile. "No, I'm here to deliver a message." Behind them, metal doors slammed open. The creatures were close now. But something had changed. The woman felt it in the air, in her bones, in her mind. For the first time since arriving at the station, she wasn't just scared. She was awake. And it was because of him. Because of Elias Ward, the man who walked with fear and made it afraid of him. The station shook as the creatures moved through the halls, fast, loud, hunting. The woman grabbed Elias's arm. "We have to run." But he didn't move. He looked toward the sound, calm as ever. Not yet. She didn't understand. The lights above flickered red and white. Pipes burst open, releasing steam. The walls echoed with deep growls and sharp clicks. The monsters were close now, dozens of them. "Are you trying to die?" she shouted. "No," Elias said. "I'm trying to wake them up." He opened a hidden panel in the wall and pulled out a small black box. Inside was a glowing blue disc. "What is that?" she asked. "A broadcast beacon," Elias replied. "The moment I place this in the main control tower, every prison, every lab, every Vrel stronghold in this system will receive one message, one truth." He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw it, the fire in his eyes. Not madness, not bravery. Purpose. "You're going to show them human history," she whispered. Elias nodded. "All of it. The wars, the disasters, the survival, the pain, the fight. They think fear controls us. They don't understand. Fear forged us." She was frozen in place, stunned by the scale of his mission. He hadn't come here to survive. He came here to plant a seed. An idea. And that idea was dangerous. Suddenly, creatures burst into the hallway. Huge, tall beasts with glowing red eyes and bone-covered arms. They stopped when they saw Elias. They didn't charge. They watched. Slowly, carefully, Elias stepped forward, raising both hands. "You know what I am," he said softly. "You've seen the records. You've seen what happens when you push us too far." One of the creatures growled low, then backed away. The woman gasped. "They're afraid." Elias turned to her. "They remember Earth's last war. The one where we burned our own sky and still kept fighting." She stared at him, breathless. "You're using fear against them." He nodded. "The Vrel created this fear weapon to break minds. But I've turned it around. Now they will feel it." He handed her the beacon. "Take this to the top of the tower. Plug it into the main dish. I'll buy you time." "But," she started. "No arguments. I can't be everywhere. But the message has to be." She looked at him, realizing something terrible. "You never planned to leave this place alive, did you?" Elias smiled, but it wasn't sad. It was proud. Every fire needs a spark. Then he turned, walking into the creatures like they were shadows, like he belonged among them. They moved aside for him. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He simply walked. And the woman, no longer just a survivor, but part of something bigger, ran toward the tower with the beacon in her hand. The plan was in motion. The galaxy would never be the same again. The tower was at the highest point of the station, an ancient structure that creaked and groaned under the weight of time. As the woman ascended, the growls and roars of the creatures grew quieter, but the tension in the air only thickened. Each step she took felt like a heartbeat, thudding in her chest. The beacon in her hand seemed heavier with every moment. She reached the control room at the top of the tower, where the main broadcast dish sat like a sleeping giant. The console flickered to life as she approached, its screens crackling with static. The woman's hands trembled as she inserted the beacon into the interface, her mind racing. It was all in Elias's hands now. The world was about to see what humans were capable of. She quickly typed in the activation code. The dish whirred to life, its long metallic arms shifting, pointing toward the stars. The moment the signal broadcasted, the woman felt the change. There was a shift in the air, something heavy, a silent, invisible force that made her skin prickle. The creatures below, the ones Elias had walked among, froze in place. Their heads turned toward the tower as if they could sense something was happening, something huge. Back at the lower levels, Elias faced the creatures head-on, standing in the middle of a large hall. The Vrel had been circling him, their dark eyes studying him. But now, they stopped. There was no growl, no hiss, just silence. Elias stood tall, his voice ringing out across the hall. "This is what we are," he said, his voice calm, but carrying an undeniable power. "We were never meant to be controlled. We will not be broken. This is who we are." The broadcast echoed across the entire station, spilling into every corner, every chamber, every Vrel stronghold. The images flashed: human wars, survival, hope in the darkest hours. There was no escape from the truth of it. For the first time, the Vrel saw the face of their real enemy. It wasn't just a creature or a race they could hunt. It was the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The woman stood at the console, her heart hammering in her chest. The broadcast had completed. The message was out, and she could feel it. Something had changed. The creatures who had once feared nothing began to retreat, their massive bodies backing away from Elias. There was a tremor in their eyes now, a doubt they had never experienced before. They were no longer sure of their superiority, no longer certain they could win. Elias slowly turned toward them, his face unflinching. "I told you," he said softly. "Fear isn't your weapon. It's ours." And in that moment, Elias did something none of the creatures could have expected. He raised his hand and made them surrender. The sound of claws scraping against metal filled the room as the creatures backed into the shadows, their fear of humanity finally overtaking their need to conquer. They had faced the impossible before, but the idea that humans were this resilient, this unstoppable, was something they couldn't process. Their minds couldn't grasp it. As the woman looked at the tower's console, she saw the full effect of the message. Every Vrel station across the system began to shut down, one by one. The creatures no longer had control. The rebellion had begun. Elias walked toward the exit, leaving the creatures behind. He had done what he came for. The message had been delivered. He reached the door and turned back for one last look. The woman was there, watching him. You really did it," she said, awe in her voice. Elias gave a faint smile. "I didn't do it alone. Humans never do." Then, without another word, he turned and walked into the darkness. His mission was complete. The galaxy would remember this day, not for the battles fought or the lives lost, but for the truth. Humanity was not a race to fear. Humanity was a race that would never be defeated. And that was the last thought the Vrel would have before they realized they were the ones truly afraid.